Welcome to the Bike Life podcast by Warmshowers Foundation, where we will be sharing knowledge, experience, tools, and stories of touring cyclists and hosts from around the world. I'm Tara Lee, the woman behind the scenes at Warmshowers Foundation, the leading platform for cyclists looking for hosts and to connect with a passionate international community. Find out more by visiting us at Warmshowers.org. Now, on to the show.
Hey everyone, this is Jerry Kopak, the host of Bike Life, coming to you from the snowy mountains of Breckenridge, Colorado. We took a little break over the holidays, but it feels terrific to be back talking about bike touring again. And even though there's snow throughout the Rocky Mountains where I'm at, there's no snow where today's guest is. Ben Clark is currently making his way through Southeast Asia as part of a 35,000 kilometer bike tour. Let that sink in for a minute. He's going to share some stories from the first part of his tour and tell us where he's off to next. Hey, Ben, welcome to Bike Life.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So first off, where are you at currently?
So I'm about 150 kilometers southeast of Bangkok right now, making my way into Cambodia in the next couple of days and then round the Southeast Asia loop.
Nice.
Bangkok.
So no snow, confirming that, right?
That's right. It's about 35 to 40 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is very, very toasty.
So for those of us not on that universal metric system, that's probably around 110, 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes, so yeah.
So I was actually in Thailand a number of years ago, and I was there through some very other hot times. And I remember getting up on my bike at 6 a.m. and riding until 10. By the time it was 10 a.m., it was that 35, 40 degrees, and it was all I could take. I actually remember one time I leaned my bike against a storefront to go in and cool off in the air conditioning. And I came back 30 minutes later, and the grips on my handlebars had actually melted. What, you have any stories from the heat of Thailand?
Yeah, I mean, literally just 2 days ago, I was riding with my t-shirt on. I thought I might take my t-shirt off, and so I've got my bib tights around my shoulders and my heart rate monitor on, and I was thinking I can just ride like this, it'd be fine, and then get back to the hotel in the evening, literally like last night, and see that I've got like, you know, tan burns, sunburn all over my back, just like, but it actually looks like the Assos logo, which is really interesting because they are Assos bib shorts anyway, but it's kind of made like an Assos short, Assos logo imprint on my back through the sunburn, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to wear this shirt today, just to sort of give my back a little bit of a rest.
Did you
use some moisturizer?
Did you pick up that shirt on the road, or did you bring that with you from home?
I did. I got it in Bangkok. I just thought it's the roads here are actually really safe in comparison to other places I've been. But I thought I'm just going to get this because it's Viz, but it's also cultural as well. So I'm just going to go with it.
I like that. I'm curious, how long have you been on the road?
Yeah, so I've been on the road for about 373 or 4 days now. So over a year. January 28th was the day I left Wales, my hometown, and then cycled to here basically. So it's been a long time. I'm going to try and do another year and a half, I think. So it's a good 2.5 years, maybe 3, depending on how I feel in that time. But yeah, it's a long time. It's become more than just a trip now. It's become a lifestyle, which is great.
Yeah, I took a trip, not quite that long, but there is a point where it becomes less of a trip and more of like, this is just life, right?
Yeah.
And so how long do you think it took for you to sort of settle into that mentality?
Well, I've been traveling for the past 10 years anyway. More on than off. I've been remote working as well as a digital nomad for the past 6-7 years. Okay. So it was quite easy for me, I think for other people it would be quite a challenge, and getting over that sort of first homesickness stage. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really good and I guess also challenging as well, because obviously you're doing different regions, different cultures. I mean, a lot of Europe is so different by country, and then when you start to do Turkey, you feel a little bit more comfortable because it's one culture for effectively 2 months if you're taking your time going across it like I was. And then obviously you meet people along the way as well, so that helps with homesickness and stuff.
Have you
Um,
did you spend a lot of time planning this trip, or you just been kind of winging it?
um, I guess I'd sort of, yeah, it depends how far I want to go back and talk about it really. But I have my influences and my motivations from when I was a child, which I can talk about. But effectively, I quit my job in October 2023 and decided I'm going to cycle around the world. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it on a motorcycle or on a bicycle, but I eventually decided to do it on a bicycle. And then I basically went to Morocco for a month and just sort of planned everything, bought everything online on eBay and Amazon and stuff, and all the various retail sites, and it all just came and landed at my mum's front door for me to get back from Morocco. And then eventually just got on the bike. Started about a month earlier than I initially planned, because it's just when you feel you've got to go, when you feel you're ready, you go. Um, and yeah, not looked back since yet. Been very happy with a lot of the products I have, and that planning preparation stage is obviously so important. But I think I've come to the realization now that I'm not going to plan things. I'm just going to go with the flow.
It's a pretty amazing place to be that you could have that flexibility to sort of go where you want to and go where you want to and not where to go to. Curious, when you were planning or not planning this, were there any countries that you were excited to go experience?
Yeah, well, the country that I end in is going to be the US, and I'm so
Okay.
looking forward to seeing that. There's another Instagrammer or another bike tour, I should say, that I follow called Tristan Reed, who has
Yeah.
just come across the US right now through the Utah desert, and he's now into Mexico. Some of his pictures just look incredible, so I really sort of look forward to that and sort of doing the hiker bike trails and the warm showers and stuff in the US. I think it's going to be really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to that probably the most out of any other country.
Yeah.
I might feel differently about it when I get there, but right now I'm very excited. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some really good countries that I was really looking forward to going through, like north of Spain, the Basque Country. Amazing for food, mountains, scenery. I was really looking forward to go through that, and it was amazing. Also, really enjoyed Croatia. Georgia as well was a huge shock for me. I didn't realize Georgia would feel so European.
Ah,
Um, and also, this is Georgia, the country, by the way, not the state. But
thank you.
but it's just an incredible place, and I can't wait to go back in the future. And then obviously, I had my time across Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan as well, which were unique, challenging, but really great places. I'm glad I went.
Yeah, I've got some questions about those latter two, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So those countries that you were looking forward to cycling through, did they meet your expectations? Do you feel like, yes, that was all I thought was going to be and more?
Yeah, it's weird on a bike because obviously you go off the beaten track. You see
Hmm.
the things which you would never see if you were obviously just going through on a bus or even driving or flying or whatever. And yeah, I've had some really great experiences. And I know that France is a great country. It hasn't always been my most favorite country, but one of the most memorable experiences on the whole trip was doing the Côte d'Azur region, which is the south of France,
Yeah.
sort of from Carcassonne to Menton. So you go through like Nice and Marseille and Fréjus and Cannes and everything, and it's just an incredible place. And it felt very Californian actually, with the
Huh.
sun and all the buildings. And it just I was listening to a lot of JJ Cale at the time as well, and it felt very Californian. So I really enjoyed that area, and that was probably been the most memorable time on the trip so far. It was such a beautiful time. But yeah, it's amazed by being surprised constantly by these countries, and meeting different people, and obviously sharing on the cultures and the diversity of all these different countries. Which I always take the idea that you can never really trust anybody. If somebody tells you they had a positive experience in one country or they had a negative experience, I never trust them. And I always tell
Yeah.
other people not to trust them because you want to be able to make your own decision. You want to
Sure.
go there and make your own mind up. And I've been constantly surprised by doing this first-hand primary research, which is me going to these countries rather than believing other people in the media.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective. Did you feel like there was one particular country that just kind of exceeded everything as far as kindness and was welcoming to you as a cyclist, as a traveler?
Yeah, weirdly, it's also the country I dislike the most as well. But I was really, really surprised. Gotta be careful what I say, but I was very surprised by India. Um,
Why?
People there are just so incredibly friendly and nice. It's a very difficult place to cycle. It's a very difficult place to be. Um, Mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. But the people were incredibly nice.
Yeah.
And I was just surprised by how lovely people are. I mean, there's 1.4 billion people in India. You'd expect there to be some bad apples, but I didn't experience that at all. Every single person I met was incredibly nice. So I was very surprised by that.
I thoroughly agree with that as far as the kindness of the people. I've been to India 3 times, mostly in the north, so slightly less populated than the south and say like the Mumbai or Delhi regions. But the people were genuinely kind, beautiful people, invited me into their home all the time, stopped me on the side of the road to have a tea with me, to offer me dinner. But the cycling part was challenging because, as you probably remember, it was the horns, right? It was the constant, incessant horn honking. And
Yeah.
it's not to say that the people are being rude or it's a road rage thing. It's more like, hey, I'm here, see me, hear me, and I'm coming. And there's that whole sort of roadway hierarchy where like the military vehicles and the buses are the highest on the food chain. And then maybe there is the regular passenger vehicles. And then below that, maybe there's the cows and then the motorbikes. And then there's the pedestrians. And then there's us, the cyclist, right? So it was kind of like cycling through a video game for me. Did you have a similar experience with that?
Yeah, well, I have a whole dislike spreadsheet about India, so I can go through all of those if you need me to. But yeah, the horns were very difficult
Yeah.
emotionally. Having to hear it, sort of, I sort of worked out maybe it would be about 3 or 4 horns a second, which is quite now riding through Bangkok. I mean, being in Bangkok next to the traffic lights in the city, you
Yeah.
don't hear the horns at all. No, no, you never just don't hear a horn because I think in this part of the world it would be considered quite rude to do so.
Yeah.
Probably also in Japan as well, I would imagine. Um, but in India, it's probably 3 or 4 times a second, and it's insane. It's hard in the morning when you've just woken up, and it's hard in the evening when you're tired from the bike and people are just honking, and it's a very difficult place to be mentally.
Yeah,
I've found.
it doesn't stop, but it's just a cultural thing that I've found only in India as well, and not in other places like Thailand as well. It seems like it's a much more quiet culture.
Yeah, definitely. But also maybe in India with this, 1.4 billion people there, it is very busy. There's a lot of cars. There's so many vehicles. Maybe that's how it works. I saw a few crashes in India while I was there, unsurprisingly, but I'm surprised also that there weren't more. And maybe the horns situation, really sort of helps there not being more crashes. I don't know. It's very
So
interesting there.
that is a really funny point there because I was actually in a taxi in India on the way to the airport a couple of years ago, and I was actually in the one taxi, I assume in the entire country, that the horn was broken in. And so it didn't stop the driver. He would still pass people uphill around blind corners, but he didn't have his horn to announce that he was coming. And he still made those passes, and it was
Well,
terrifying. So maybe the horn, I guess, has its place in some regard, right?
yeah.
Was there any country that you've been through or about to go through that's kind of made you concerned or given you pause?
That's a good question. There were, I suppose, when I started, I'm a very, how do I say this? I'm a person with a high risk appetite generally, but I also don't put myself into very difficult situations on purpose, um, which I'm sure most people would agree to. But I didn't want to go through Afghanistan
Okay.
or Russia. or Pakistan, because I knew that they were very, very difficult places to go through. In hindsight, I kind of wish I had gone through Afghanistan now, having
Okay.
seen a friend of mine who had gone through it, Jamie, who'd gone through and seen his Instagram stories and everything. I was like, wow, this place looks insane. Um, and so I kind of wish I had gone through Afghanistan now.
Okay.
In fact, it's probably the biggest regret of the trip, to be
Oh,
honest, not going through. Doesn't mean I can't do it in the future. I'll probably do it again in the future on a motorcycle. But
okay.
yeah, on this trip, I'm disappointed that I didn't. Um, but I am glad that I didn't go through Russia.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I've heard a lot of bad stories of cyclists going through, being detained at the border for hours, having their phones checked, having all of their bags checked, and I just know I wouldn't get through. So I'm really glad that I didn't go through Russia. But also, the problem is like it's the authority. There's nothing wrong with these countries. I'm sure Russian people are some of the nicest people in the world. I'm sure Iranian and Afghanistan people are some of the nicest people in the world. It's the border police that you've got to watch out for. Or in the case of Pakistan, it's being in the police convoys every 30 kilometers to get to the next checkpoint. That's what you have. That's where my difficulty comes from. It's not from the country itself.
Yeah, that's it's interesting that you pointed out because I actually was in Pakistan about 4 months ago, and I did experience some of that not checkpoints, but being in the back of a police vehicle because we were being transported through a region that they deemed less safe, which I
Yeah.
can appreciate that. But of course, when you're just riding the bound in the back of a van, it kind of takes a little bit of the spirit of the cycling adventure out of it. But I will say, once I got up northern part, like in the Hunza or Skardu area, it was much more relaxed. I was able to travel freely. People were just as kind as they were in India. So if you have a chance, maybe check it out. It was a really, really good experience.
Awesome. And I'd also really like to do Myanmar as well.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to do it on this trip. I had to fly from Kathmandu, Nepal, to Bangkok because obviously, I mean, I personally I couldn't stomach going through India again, to be completely honest. But also, Bangladesh would have been very, very difficult mentally, if not more challenging than India. But I mean, ultimately, Myanmar's borders are closed, so you can't go in or out. And it's not to say that I don't want to go. I'd love to go to Myanmar. I can't do it on this trip, obviously. In the future, I could do it probably, and it's you can't really expect to cycle around the world and to not sort of run into international relation issues like this. It would be great though if you could leave, you know, your home country at in 1 month where every country is open and happy to see you around the world. Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Myanmar. I think they're the only main countries on the traditional um, cyclist route, which are quite temperamental sometimes.
Okay. So since we're talking about cycling around the world, I think you'd mentioned 35,000 kilometers. And for those of us not on the metric system, that's around 22,000 miles, which is no small order. Uh, where else are you looking at? You're going to go south of the equator to Africa, to South America, those places, or you're going to kind of keep it sort of lateral?
Yeah, so next up, I'm going to sort of try and do the whole Southeast Asia loop. So I'm going to now
Okay.
ride into Cambodia, Vietnam, up to Hanoi, Hajel loop, Laos, then down to Bangkok, and then probably down to Bali, Indonesia, and come all the way through Malaysia and all that sort of area, and then down and do the whole east coast of Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand, and then
Okay.
fly to Seattle. And then I'd like to do like somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 kilometers in the US
Okay.
would be really cool. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to doing the US segment. Probably do some of Canada as well. And then depending on the distance or how bored I am, not bored, shouldn't say that. How tired I am by then. I might also do Mexico and some of Central America as well.
Yeah, I was
But
wondering.
like I said, I mean, what my sort of end goal is to reach Boston within the sort of time frame that I've allotted. Um, but I mean, depending on how I feel then and how much money I have left as well, I could also do South America as well.
What's in Boston?
Um, Probably some very nice Irish pubs. I don't know. I've never been, but
I was just thinking, like you being from the UK, Boston Tea Party, like is there some kind of like political connection there?
no, no. I just figured that it would be a more calmer city to end in than
Okay.
New York. Um, I've been told that that's probably correct. But yeah, I mean, Boston looks quite nice. I don't. I've got a few friends in Boston actually, so that could be one of the reasons. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, I could change Miami Beach, for example, or I don't know. Yeah, I'll take some suggestions from the group chat after this.
Well, I'm very partial to Colorado. So just know if you make your way through Colorado, through Breckenridge, you need a place to stay, we definitely have space for you. So love to share a meal with you or a pint.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
So you've been on the road for, you said like just over a year now on this trip?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Have you noticed any changes in you? And like obviously physically you're fit because you're riding your bike for a year, but as far as like maybe your mental state, anything like that, anything's changed in you that you've sort of let go of?
Um, there was a time which there was a time when I was working, when I was basically working for the last company I worked for. I worked for them for 4.5 years, and I was always basically on a hybrid holiday, is what I would call it. So I was always at work, and I was always on holiday. It was remote working. So I never actually felt like I was on holiday, but it also never felt like I was at work. It was kind of like somewhere in the meantime. And then when I was able to fully commit to this bicycle trip, I was able to fully experience what it's like to be on a holiday, which is amazing, and I love it, and it's great, and it'd be great to spend the rest of life like this. But at the same time, I have found that I find it quite difficult to feel like I'm always on holiday at the time. I need to have some structure in the day, so I make sure that every day I do sort of 10 things, which I promise myself that I'm going to do.
Okay.
So, for example, I'll make sure that I do my Duolingo. I'll make sure I listen to something new, or learn something new every day, or listen to a podcast, or do a unique activity, or 30 minutes an hour of cycling or whatever, or a big walk. And I need to have that structure in order to feel like I've accomplished something in the day. Otherwise, I'm just sat around doing nothing. So that's been a big thing for me, and sort of finding purpose. Um, in terms of some of the activities, though, I mean, it's part of that finding structure throughout the day, and I think that can be quite challenging sometimes for cyclists on long distance tours, especially when it becomes less of a trip and more of a lifestyle, like we were saying before. Um, so to sort of give me a bit more structure, I've started to do some vlogs. I've started to create a vlog every day, film what I've done throughout the day, edit it, put it on social media, just to sort of inspire others, and also to give myself a little bit more structure and accountability as well. To my followers, say this is what I've done today, and I'm going to do better tomorrow.
I love that because that was going to be my next question is sort of what's your goal? Like, what do you hope to accomplish? What do you hope to walk away with when you're finished with this, whenever that end date is?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get my six pack back, to be honest. Not that I ever had one, but I would love one. Yeah, I'd like to lose some weight on the trip. That's sort of a big one for me. I mean, I have the difficulty of getting to any place where I stop and just sort of like refilling those lost calories that I've worked so hard to lose on the bike. So I find it difficult to lose weight sometimes if I'm drinking and eating pizza every night. But yeah, I'd like to lose some weight. I'd like to get physically fitter and stronger, both through increasing my HRV, which is heart rate variability, and also through strength and conditioning, actually building muscles. So that's one of my big goals. But also the vlogs. It'd be really really great to have a single video every single day of what I've done that day. It's a lot easier for me to do that than a physical diary. But to be able to show the world what I've done that day or that week or that month, excuse me, is quite an amazing thing to be able to show the world. It inspires people, holds me accountable, and it gives me a really good memory for that day as well. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously, indirectly, I get to see the world. I get to meet other people. I get to enjoy my life in this particular moment. Um, and that's obviously what life is all about,
Yeah.
enjoying.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so speaking of meeting other people, I know that you have a story about a lost cyclist in Uzbekistan. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let's picture it. Let's build
Set
the
the
scene.
set the stage.
Okay, so there was a guy I met in a place called Shepte, which is about 70 kilometers northeast of Aktau, which is the first big city in the Mangistau region of Kazakhstan. So I basically got to Aktau and then was cycling on towards Bainu and then into Uzbekistan. And I'd met this old man, this old guy called Graham, who is Graham. Don't hurt me for this, but I think he's 84 years old. Is he 84 years old? I can't remember. Can we reshoot this bit?
No, but we can fact check it later.
I think he's 84. Anyway, so I saw him on the side of the road, and we'd ridden today. We'd ridden together for a little bit during the day as we were going in between the cities, but we were never riding together. So I'd sort of wake up one morning, get out on the bike, do 80 kilometers, and then I'd see him in the evening doing the last sort of 5 kilometers, and then in the morning I'd wake up again and I'd do another 80 kilometers, and then I'd see him again in the end of the day, and it didn't really make any sense because he's on an old mountain bike, and he's not. I'm dressed like a pro using pro equipment, and he's on an old mountain bike that he's bought from the market, and it just didn't make any sense. But it turned out that he was doing a little bit of hitchhiking, so that sort of explained why I couldn't sort of ever find out why he was as fast as me. But anyway, we had a bit of a scare in North Uzbekistan. So this is by the time I'd already known Graham quite well. Um, but I didn't hear from him for a while, and his daughter got in touch with me on Instagram and said, are you cycling with my dad? And do you know where he is? And I was like, well, yeah, sure, I do. I mean, he's like probably 20 kilometers ahead of us or 90 kilometers ahead of us, whatever. And she was like, we haven't heard from him in a week. And I was like, wow. He's not the most technologically advanced, bit of a technophobe. We'll just say that. And yeah, to be honest, there was a bit of a element in my mind. I was thinking, this could be a bit worse than it seems at face value right now. And she was, very, very worried as she was getting on the phone with British embassy and Interpol and the British embassy in Tashkent, which is Uzbekistan's capital. And it was very worrying. And then it got to the point where actually, I was riding with two other guys at the time. I'm like, okay, this could be quite serious. He could be dead. So we're looking as we're riding through Uzbekistan, this region, everywhere under bridges, sides of roads, just to see if we can find, effectively a body. It's a very, very
Oof.
sketchy and scary sort of moment to be in. Also, I mean, Uzbekistan in that area is completely desolate. It's the desert basically. But we're still looking under things to see if we can find a body. It was very scary. Couple of days go, couple of days go by, and he does turn up. We find him. I think we found him in a restaurant in Nukas, and he just comes in. He shows his face and everything. It was very, very strange. But it turns out he was just having a week off social media,
Oh,
but he didn't
geez.
tell anybody that he was doing that. He didn't tell his family, he didn't tell us. So we all thought he was dead, effectively. But obviously he was fine. But it was a very dangerous place to sort of pull that trick, in the deserts of Uzbekistan. But I also understand that he is from a different time, a different era, a different generation where, they didn't have phones. It was paper maps. There was no satellite communications, no social media. So it was, but I was just very glad that he was okay in the end. considering he had very, very little safety equipment with him. He was wearing a skateboarder's helmet. He had a mountain bike, which he bought on the market in Actow for £200. He had no cycling clothing. He was cycling in jeans. So it was, yeah, it was, no panniers, no racks. It was just a basket on the front of the bike. All this sort of stuff, very, very underprepared. I have some pictures as well. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, I can send you the pictures of me and Graham. But yeah, very glad he's okay. I also hear from him as well from time to time. He's going to go back to Bukhara this year, and he's going to cycle again from Bukhara to, I believe, the Pamir Highway as well. So at that age, to continue doing these things is quite amazing. And I'm sure most people, including myself, would like to still be, that active and that curious at that age as well.
I was just thinking the same thing. Like, it sounds like Graham is living his best life. And
Yeah.
so we should all be so fortunate to be cycling the world on a clapped out bike from the market for 200 pounds and still doing life the right way at 84. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So I just have one more question for you. Are you still having fun, or are you ready to be done?
I'm still having fun.
Okay.
I think it's a very good question. I think I'm still having fun. I think there's some structure I'd like to add into my journey right now to sort of make sure that I'm a little bit more happy. I'm happy when I'm productive and I'm building something. So in a way, if I can do something with my vlogs and I can build some inspiration for other people, and I can make something productive of my time that isn't just cycling, then I'll be happy. One of the reasons I want to return to my industry, which is tech, wearable sports tech, working for the likes of Garmin and Kuros, is because as an entrepreneur, I enjoy building things. And I don't have my laptop with me right now on the bike. And even if I did, all my time would just be everywhere. I wouldn't be able to focus on anything. But I do miss building things. And that's probably why I'm putting the time in as well to do podcasts and, work with media clients to sort of build something and put it out there and write some articles and stuff, because I want to be productive and mentally stimulated with it as well. So if I can get all that sort of stuff done, then I think I'll be, and make it sustainable, then I think I'll be happy. But I'm enjoying seeing the world and meeting other people and riding my bike and getting fit, and all of those things make me happy. And ultimately, it's not the traditional way of doing things. The traditional way of doing things is going to school, getting a job, meeting someone, getting married, doing that, not taking 5 years out to go traveling, cycling around the world. So societally, it's not necessarily accepted, which can be difficult sometimes. But I'm always happy to go against the grain, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and hopefully it inspires others as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you have find out and you're demonstrating, there's more than one path through life, and I think ultimately at the end of the day, as long as you're happy and living a good life, I think you're on the right path.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we do these interviews. That's why I had the privilege and enjoyment of meeting people like you, talking to people with the goal of trying to inspire others to get out there and live their best life. So,
absolutely, and you don't know if you don't try. And
yeah.
I think I get a lot of messages all the time from people on Instagram saying, what's the best bike to buy, or where would you start, or what countries would you, recommend that I cycle through, or whatever. And the reality is, I'm happy to give all of that advice all the time. But the best thing that you could do is put some money aside every month to a future bicycle, buy it, and then go and do some sort of local bike touring in your local area, and then build up to start doing longer distance trips, because it's a great lifestyle to be able to see the world like that on a bike. You see so much that you wouldn't have seen if you were in a train, a car, whatever. You get the smells, the sights, the sounds. People see you. Some people take pity of you. Like I was saying before, in India, a lot of the people were so nice because they see you're going through a hardship on your bicycle climbing up a mountain. So they stop to offer you water. You have those experiences with the locals that you wouldn't have had if you were to arrive on a tourist bus.
100%. I love that. I've experienced that, and you are so right on. So with that, Ben, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day, and hopefully on a rest day today, and hopefully you're in a nice air-conditioned hotel. And thank you for sharing your stories. So speaking of followers, how can listeners follow you along on your adventure?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm at World by Bike. That's World by Bike _UK. And I post my vlogs on there. And I've also got my link tree in my bio that goes through to my Buy Me a Coffee, as well as a few other links like Strava and my website. But yeah, that's worldbybike.co.uk. It's my website. And then the Instagram is at worldbybike _UK.
Got it. Thank you. We're going to post that in our show notes so everyone can follow along and see what you are up to.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Ben Clark. If you enjoy our show, give us a like, a share on your social channels, or just tell your friends. These stories hopefully will inspire you to set off on your own bicycle adventure and help to make the world feel a little bit smaller, one pedal stroke at a time. My name is Jerry Kopak, and until next time, keep cycling.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed making it. Wherever you are listening, please leave us a rating and a review, as it helps us reach more cyclists and hosts around the world. Visit us at Warmshowers.org to become a part of our community, or on Instagram at Warmshowers_org. If you would like to be a guest on the show or submit a question, please make sure to email us at podcast@warmshowers.org.